All right, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. It is the last day of the month, the last day of February. It has been rest month for me because Black History Month for me is a time where I actually fall back and I see who comes on to the stage and what they talking about. And then when do they disappear? But it is every day is a celebration of my Blackness, y'all. But for me, February is also my time where that's like my real new year. So January is my trial month. Y'all have heard me talk about that. And then I jump into February ready. And so they're trying to get me with a head cold this time, y'all. But I am here. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome, welcome. I'm Kishshana Palmer, CEO of Kishshana & Co. We are a management and leadership learning company where we help everyday leaders just like you live well so you can lead well. And so our coaches, our trainers, and our strategists work with organizations, work with fintech companies, we work with cannabis companies, we work with folks who are on the cutting edge of doing all the things to help you ensure that you have healthy and thriving leadership in teams. But y'all, enough about me. I'm counting down the days until the queenager graduates from high school because she keeps messing up all my plans. So y'all, check it. So I had this idea that I was going to go to this fancy conference where I'm not a speaker. That's another conversation for another day because why did they not pick me? But either way, I decided I was going to go and be in the audience at this fancy conference so I can meet new people and I can, extend my network and so forth and so on and learn and soak it up from the experts. I was ready to go. I was going to go to this conference. I was going to go to a board meeting. I was going to go to my cousin's graduation and run it back. Y'all see my plan, right? My plan was perfect. This morning, I get a text message from my child that says the following: Mom, I've got the dates for the fashion show. And all I could think, y'all, is, oh, hell, which dates is she about to ruin? And you know what she told me, y'all? The same dates that I was planning to do my 3-city trek. So now I'm going to have to figure out how to twist myself into a pretzel to be in the front row on Parents' Night, yet to be decided, and still be in 3 cities for the things I have planned for myself. I'm sick of it. So I want y'all to know that y'all need to stick with me because when I'm dropping her off at her school, it's going to be a cry boo-hoo, but a celebration for everybody. Okay, but that's it. Y'all know every week I tell you a way in which the child has ruined my life this week. And I love her so bad. But this week, listen, I have been doing this series with some incredible humans who are in the social sector and are doing really great work with organizations through coaching and training and consulting and strategy and speaking. And I get the gift of knowing lots of folks. And so I reached out to my network and I said, I want to talk to folks who have recently gotten their certification. My friends at CFRE is sponsoring a series for us to just have conversations about how we get into our work. And so today I am so excited to bring on my friend Hannah Berger, who literally, it'll be almost a year though, so now I can't say you're brand new. Last spring, right?
Right, almost a year.
Mm-hmm. Almost a year, sat for your CFRE, your Certified Fundraising Executive Credential.
Yes.
First of all, welcome.
Thank you. So good to be here with you.
Absolutely. So now I have a question. So I want you to kind of just first just lay out for folks your sweet spot, because you actually do a very specific type of consulting, which I love. And so just share with us, kind of your ethos before we jump into our topic at hand.
Sure. So we'll get into it, but I've been consulting for going on 9 years now.
Woo!
20 years in the social sector, right? Mostly as a frontline fundraiser.
Yep.
And so the consulting was kind of like the side hustle for quite some time.
How many of us can talk to that? I want y'all to drop it in the chat if consulting was your side hustle. You were like, look, this is the private school money. This is the swim money. This is the family vacation money. Oh, people are in the chat. Hey, Hannah. Renee says, woohoo, I love these ladies.
Oh, hey, right.
Hanging out with us in the chat. Go ahead.
So, kind of honed exactly what I wanted my niche to be when it was finally time for me to step fully into entrepreneurship. So, formed my business a few years ago, but just stepped fully into it last year. And what I decided to carve out was my business is really twofold. I do a lot of major campaign consulting, working with organizations that are pivot point or major sort of step in their evolution. So capital campaigns, major expansion campaigns.
Yeah.
The other half of my business is empowerment coaching, specifically for nonprofit leaders. So the basis of that is the coaching work that I've done is really more like life coaching practice.
Mm-hmm.
But because I have all this experience in the social sector, because I've experienced burnout firsthand, because I've worked with so many people that have had, burnout, fundraisers who don't feel empowered to really use their voice all the time.
That's right.
That's my sweet spot. That's where I love working with people and kind of getting them to feel supported enough to show up as their full selves.
I love that. And I feel like I just get that energy from you. And most of our peers who I think are in this work came into the work because we were like, hey, our sector's not going away. We need folks who can be anchors, middle posts, to really be able to ensure that professionals who are active, everyday frontline fundraisers are able to not just survive, but thrive, and the work that we need is necessary. And I don't know about you, but when I first got into my work, I think people looked at coaching like, you want they're like soap and the coaching industry in general right now, people are giving it the side eye, right? But for our industry in particular, people were like, so you feel like we have money for coaching? We don't have the staples.
Oh, that sounds like a luxury product, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Like coaching is the Birkin bag. They're like, listen, but that's not true. And so I'm curious from your perspective and just from what you've experienced with your clients, like, where do you see folks need to like really lean in and get that breakthrough? Why is it so critical for folks to be able to have a coach?
So for me, coaching is, first and foremost, all about mindset shifts. And I think one of the biggest handicaps that we have in our sector is this like scarcity mindset.
Yes.
Right. Folks often we don't have a line item for professional development, coaching, whatever that might be, conferences, trainings, etc., because they're not seeing those things as investments. They just see them as expense, money out the door. Woo! They don't see it's going to return anything, but it's literally everything, right? If we don't develop our people, if we don't make them feel supported, if we don't invest in their future, not only at the organization they might be with now, but future organizations they'll move on to and impact, what are we doing? What are we
doing? And I think that part is so critical. One of the things that I had to learn in my as I moved from being a solopreneur, when I first moved, to your point, from my side hustle to the full time, and then I was by myself, and I was like, well, I'm not a freelancer, so how do I do this thing? And eventually I had to start hiring a staff. And so one of the things that I had to learn, I learned this the hard way, is that you cannot look at your team members as an expense.
Right.
That is literally an investment in your business. They are people, but they are an investment in the business. And so getting that air quotes right is really important because you've got to invest. So even folks who have the monetary investments, folks are looking at it like this on every day, looking at their investments. So why are we not looking at our people like that? And so I so agree with you about the way organizations have sort of like leadership in organizations and founders of organizations have kind of perpetuated this cycle of scarcity by not stepping forward and saying, actually, it is a retention practice to make sure that our folks are healthy and whole because of how much they're pouring out. So I love that you just kind of like brought that right up. So when you're in your strategy side, because I know you have both your sides, what are you seeing right now, 2023? What are organizations that you work with sort of globally struggling with, or just facing head on? It might not be the struggle, but they definitely have to face it.
The R word, right? Like the looming recession. Everybody's terrified. Right. What do we do? How are we going to behave? Are all of our donors going to disappear?
Yes.
Fortunately, I'm old enough that I've already lived through one of these.
Look, our skin looks real good. Hey, we've lived through one of these before and raised money.
Yeah. But I know the answer is not only are we going to be just fine, but it's necessary that we don't take our foot off the gas.
Correct.
Because when our economy in this country declines, the social sector is needed more than ever. Our outputs have to go way up.
They have to.
So, it's like put the fear aside and let's just get to work. Right.
Yep. That's exactly right.
So that's a big piece of the puzzle. I'm also seeing this really interesting shift that I haven't quite figured out yet, that I think is a byproduct of what I'm calling the great reshuffling.
Oh,
Because I didn't see a lot of my peers leave the sector. I saw them change jobs, maybe shift careers slightly. And a lot of organizations are looking for consultants to come in and help them kind of get their new playbook together.
that's right.
Because they realize what was working before with their development team isn't working now.
That's right.
Or they've lost their whole development team. Or they're on the precipice of needing to really expand. And they're like, I need to hire my first chief development officer, but I don't know as a CEO or founder how to support them.
That's right. That's right. And no idea how to do those things. And even though there's lots of information on the internet, I don't actually feel like it's a gift. Years ago, I used to be like, all right. So, you got about 4 websites that, you can kind of get stuff from. You got about 72 books, 2 publications, a partridge in a pear tree. Like, you knew kind of like where you needed to go. And then everything else was user and lived experience generated, right? But now we're at a place where everything is everything. Like, we're just spitting stuff. And you can't really tell what's actual, useful, actionable information and what is pure foolishness.
Right.
Steeped in really old and archaic practices that just don't work for the way we live right now. So I'm curious about, your decision then in all of that, because we're doing new things and we got to get new skills. What made you decide now was the time for you to get your CFRE?
So there's a few pieces to this puzzle. First and foremost, it was taking up a lot of mental space. Like for years, I'd been like, I should really think about that. Yeah. And my peers that I respected would be like, you don't have a CFRE?
Yeah.
I had my CFRE for a decade, And so when I finally was like, okay, I'm going to launch my business, I was working with a really incredible coach. Shout out to Brian Evans. And he was saying to me, like, let's talk about some of the consultants, professionals out there that you admire.
Yeah.
The Gail Perrys, the Kishshana Palmer, if you will. Right? What do they have in common? What do these people have in common? And so I made a long list. And one of the things on that list was they all had a CFRE.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, there must be something to this.
Something to it.
So a good friend of mine, Jack Alata, actually offers a free CFRE prep group. And when I found that out, I was like, okay, I'm out of excuses. I'm going to do this thing. And, while I do think that we're a little over obsessed with degrees and credentials in our society.
Yeah.
And I do believe that experience is the best source of knowledge, lived experience. It doesn't hurt to have these things on our resumes to help us get through the door, to get a seat at the table, to get that interview.
It doesn't hurt.
So I know that I made the investment. I took the test last spring, passed. And it's been a really smart business decision.
And, for me, and I love that, right? So for me, it was a career game changer. So I was super young. And I've talked about this before, I was a young Black professional, newly executive professional. And I really just wanted more people to take me seriously. When I was in my 20s, I don't know, I look like a teenager maybe. And so I used to have to put makeup on and do all the things. We coughed, with the hope of being taken more seriously, so that folks wouldn't pat me on the head. Oh, you're so cute with your little fundraising self. Let me give you a check. It did work though. I want you to know. Either way, taking credentialing really allowed me to get focused. And so in the 6 months prior to me taking my test, and my study partner was Reagan Brown, shout out to her. She and I decided not to go into a big group. We were like, we just gonna study together. That's gonna be it. Okay. And we didn't really know each other well then. We were just like, that's it. And we split up the books that we had to read so we could help each other learn them. And so I stopped reading all my salacious, romance novels for that time so that I could pick this stuff up. I want to tell you though, I don't think I've really ever picked back up my salacious novels. I read so many business books and stuff now. I feel like pleasure. Ooh, I'm going to have a 4-hour plane flight. I'm going to read this book on it. The worst, but
it happens.
Yeah. It happens, right? But it gave me a running start. And so I think the parallel I'm going to bring forward here is that you just went full time, no net into your practice a little bit over a year ago. And what is it helping you to do? give you that running start.
Yeah, because I'll tell you what, CFRE has been around for how long now?
Since Methuselah was Methuselah Jr.
Right. So I would say about a decade ago, the rest of the world started knowing what those letters meant.
Right.
Right.
Because I definitely had a job or two. Didn't you? Where they were like, what now?
Yeah. So now, you'll see most job postings that I come across these days, it's, for senior level development professionals, it says CFRE preferred. Mm-hmm. It's on par with a master's degree or a decade or so of experience. It's kind of become the gold standard. The other thing that I think has been really beneficial that I didn't realize I was going to get out of it is another awesome community of peers that I can tap for resources and knowledge and connections.
Absolutely.
And, that's everything.
And I love that part because I feel like really connected. I remember the folks who took their CFRE during my class period. Some of them are ACFREs now. And I was like, I don't know when I'm going to do that. Although Nancy Beard, who I interviewed a few weeks ago, she was like, I need you to go and do it. And I was like, okay, because that's the way she did my CFRE. Go and take it. And so, I think we're lifelong learners, right? Like, I think one of the things about being 100%. A consultant that I want to kind of gauge your opinion on is, what are the things that you're most curious about? Like, what keeps you curious? Keeps you like, going down a rabbit hole?
Within the profession of fundraising? I mean, we could
that's a listen.
Okay.
Let's start there in the profession and then let's meander on into pop culture.
Okay. What am I curious about? So I will say this, to me, fundraising is a lot of things. One of them is storytelling. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I've been really trying to hone my skills around is ethical storytelling, being very hyper aware of the language that I use for myself, but also for my clients, right? In the documents I create, in the videos we produce, everything. So ethical storytelling, I'm taking a Dare to Lead certification, Brene Brown, right now, because I feel like vulnerability in the workplace is something that I nerd out on, but personally it's very challenging for me. So I know that that's a spot that I gotta, dig into. And then I'm also really curious about, I love philanthropy. I'm obsessed with it. I nerd out on all the studies, read everything that comes through from the major foundations. I also strongly believe that philanthropy alone is not going to solve our social problems.
Absolutely not.
It's not going to change the wealth disparity in this country.
Well, not.
In large part, it adds to it, right? In a lot of ways. So the last couple of years, I've also been spending a lot of time kind of digging into the VC space.
Yeah.
How are there for-profit investments that can be made into communities that are going to, more efficiently change the status quo?
And there are some examples of that from VCs. So most of my career was spent in social ventures. So most of my donors or donor partners were in the VC space. And so, one of the challenges and then opportunities that, that provides is an opportunity to talk in the language that makes sense to them, which is return on investment. And then being able to more clearly articulate what that means in language that they understand. And so I think, the fact that you're curious and that you're focused on ethical storytelling is a good one, because it could be really easy to just sort of dip into whatever words, get to the result that you're looking for. And so being able to be disciplined to articulate how impact looks and feels and why money as a tool is necessary to be able to feel that impact, I think is really, really important. So I'm glad you're digging in, because I agree with you. It's not just going to be from a private philanthropy alone. It's going to have to be, when we think about multiple streams of income, lots of different fields. Okay. So what are you curious about outside of your work?
Oh boy. Oh man, we're going to go all kinds of directions.
I mean, you were like, vulnerability is my challenge. And I'm like, tell me all your business.
You're like, let's see. Curious about outside of work. Spirituality. I'm way more into the woo than I think most people would like expect out of me.
Oh, okay.
I try to keep it pretty buttoned up with my clients, but in my non-work hours, I'm pranic healing and meditation and all the things.
But I think that your clients would appreciate that. I wonder. Yeah, I wonder.
It's like the last question on my intake questionnaire for my coaching clients. Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about astrology, breath work, meditation?
Yeah. I love that.
Because I will incorporate it if they're
comfortable with it. Yeah.
Or curious,
I love that. And adding that, I think when I normally do intake with them, we have that conversation. I am a woman of faith. I'm a Christian, and there are folks who are really excited about that. And there are folks who are like, we only need a sprinkle of Jesus. We don't need just seasoning the whole thing, garnish. Some people don't want it at all. Just want it plain. And so, one of the things I've had to learn is how to understand and to have enough knowledge to be fluid, but also, to be able to engage in conversation when other people have other centers of practice. Right. Yeah. And I think that's something that's really important. And to me, teasing it out for you was good for me because I didn't know that. And I would not have guessed that. And that is awesome because for folks who want to be more steeped in that type of work with that approach, I can immediately say, oh, talk to Hannah. Like, she knows that's her jam. And she's awesome. And so I love that part of it. Okay. So spirituality is one.
Yeah.
Give me one more.
What am I really into? Music.
Oh, what's on your playlist right now? Let's do it. Bring up your Spotify. Let me see.
So Renee's in the chat. We actually share, Spotify has that new feature where you can like merge with a friend.
Yes.
And it'll create a playlist.
Yeah.
Renee's your friend? I should just post it for everybody.
First of all, Renee, can I get access to the playlist? Because playlists are my life. I share them with all my clients. I do them in all of my trainings. Today I was on a session with Joan Gary and her community, and they were like, what's the playlist? And then they were like, we're gonna make a playlist tomorrow, Kishshana, for them. So I love it. Like, music is just such healing.
Can I tell a quick story about music and Kishshana Palmer? So AFP Icon 2022, I walked into the room for your first training and I was like, is that RZA? Like, I swear you were playing Wu-Tang. And I was like, at Icon? Like, I think I turned around in a full circle to make sure everybody else could hear it. I was like,
you're like, what? Yeah.
I'm in love. Like,
I'm in love back. I mean, I feel like one of the things that being a consultant and a consultant who has credentials, right? So this is like balance that I walk, and I'm sure you walk to a degree or completely. I get to be myself, and I am not for everyone. And so when I walk into a room, I already know I'm going to take up space. And so my curiosity most days is like, what kind of space am I willing to take up? And the space that I choose to take up is joy.
Right.
And so I'm going to bring it. Y'all gonna feel my energy. You're gonna get this Queens girl who still lives in her Queens house. And you're gonna get all of this academician type stuff too, if necessary and needed. And so I have found that to be so freeing to rest in the fact that, like, yo, I know my stuff. And also, and I can talk in my most relaxed vernacular if I choose, and also listen to Wu-Tang.
Right.
For the children. Oh, somebody said that for the children. Lisa said it. You take it for the children. Yes.
So question for you,
sure,
along those lines. So I walk into that room, I hear the music you're playing. I'm like, she literally set the tone. It's also like a warning, like, this might not be for you, but come on in if you're curious, Yes. I would say that based on that standing room only room, and it was a big room, that most of the people were like, I really want to be here. But my question for you is, like, what came first? Were you like, I got all the credentials, I know exactly who I am, I get to show up any way I want? Or were you like, let me go ahead and model this behavior for other people until I'm like 100% grounded in my brand, what I'm bringing to the table?
Dang, that's a good question. It's a little bit of both. So I feel like I have been a master performer since I was little, right? Like I was the orator of my family. I memorized all the poems. My parents didn't realize I could sing until I was 10. I mean, like I was in church every Saturday singing in the choir. But not until I was 10 did they realize like, oh, this chick, right? And so I go to college. I'm a big personality. I get into fundraising. I went to investment banking first. And I was like, wow, people are really conservative here and no one's going to ever see my shoes. You know, like these are the things that was that 20-year-old me went back and got my MBA. The more I went down that road, the more I tried to fit myself into what I believed I was supposed to do to be successful. And I had no other model. And I also didn't know if anything was wrong. Like, so there are some folks who are like, I always felt like I was not in my right skin. I didn't feel that way. I was getting those messages at home and at work and at school. And so to me, it just was. And it wasn't until I got fired from my last role when I thought I was going to put my business down and pick it up again later. And I was like, enough of this shit. Like when I'm myself, things still happen. And when I'm not myself, things still happen. So it makes more sense just to be myself. Yeah. And then I get to decide how much of myself you get to engage with, because everybody doesn't get all of the goodness.
Right.
And so it took me some time to really model that. And I'll give you a quick story. 2016 was the first time I did my first rev of my website. And I wrote all the copy and I sent it to my best friend. And she always said she's the most conservative of all my friends, right? And so in terms of like what she would show and how she would show up in the world. And she was like, are you really going to put profanity in your copy? And I was like, but I cuss like a sailor. And she's like, yeah, but what audience are you really trying to bring in with that? And I was like, oh. So at first I was like, you're trying to change who I am and I cannot be myself. And then I was like, wait a minute. Everything is not for everybody. So it has taken some time, north of 8 years now, for me to start to really develop. And honestly, Anna, it was because my daughter is like still growing and learning, right? She's a teenager, but she's a fully expressed human. Okay. She's had the space and the agency to just show up, and these young people just show up loud. Right. Yeah, so watching her like not struggle with certain things that I really struggled with at her age, was just really freeing for me, because basically as a parent, you grow up with your kids, and so I think that for me, I've just grown up. Is how I would describe it. And I think that my ability to be able to share my space with others, I have a lot of it to give. There's very few things that embarrass me. Very, very few things.
That's a superpower.
Is it a superpower?
I think so.
Hey, mama. Listen, when you have West Indian parents, shame level is just real low by the time you're an adult, because they take good pride in making sure they're like, you don't count. We love you though. So anyway, so that's how I think I have a little bit of both. What about you? Because I feel like your energy to me is like soothing and powerful. It's like a palpable sort of like vibration. So if I was sitting there as your client, I'd be like, and then what happened? And then, so what you want me to do? Okay. So how did you come into your space and into like how you're showing up now at this point in your life?
Well, thank you for the compliment about my energy. Yeah. A lot of trial and error, a lot of, honestly, a lot of like not honoring myself and getting to places where I was like kind of torn up about it, COVID helped, the whole world getting turned on its head and like taking a really good hard look at like how am I living? How much time do we have left? What do I want to do with this lifetime? All those big sort of esoteric questions.
Yeah.
Just feeling like I don't have time for the nonsense,
Absolutely.
I remember early in my career, similar to you, the coaching I was getting from the people who I'm now their age, it was a mess. A mess. Like I started my career in Washington, D.C., fresh out of undergrad, came right out of UC Irvine, moved to DC. I was going to change the world, and that's where you do it.
That's where you do it.
At 21, it was so
That's it.
And I remember the head of development at the organization called me to her office, sat me down, and said that she wanted me to consider getting my hair chemically straightened because it looked too California and nobody was going to take me seriously.
I got that kind of advice too.
Yeah.
And what did you say? Okay, so the question is, did you do it?
No. But I did blow it out for a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like let's keep it real. Like, just for like a couple weeks, and you bristle at the end of that advice. And guess what? Before I got really clear on what does it mean to show up powerfully, because everybody thinks, I want to be my all authentic self. And I'm always like, hey, dial that back. Yeah. Everybody does not need full throttle 6-speed you. Okay? You don't need 6-speed you. You be sticking yourself. So let's kind of just understand what that means. But on the flip side, I think I was one of those managers early on, because I remember telling a team member, she came to work, stretch pants, before stretch pants wore jeggings and the things, shirt, and she looked like she was ready to roll out of bed and go to farmer's market. And we worked in a very, very conservative education organization. And I was just really trying to understand, did she not see when she passed all of the cubes of all of the people that worked there that everybody had on a suit? And so she came to me and said that she couldn't afford it. I know how much I paid her, and I'm not going to count her money, but I was like, what can you afford? Which store can you afford? Like, where do you shop? She told me where, and I was like, do you feel comfortable with me coming with you? Because we don't want people, this conversation is not going to be the conversation. And she was like, okay. And I sure did take her on lunch and try to get her together on her budget. I'm not sure I would do that now. I think now I might have a different type of conversation about norming coming into an organization. But when I was, a younger manager, I was all about hands-on. I'm not sure that was right either.
A piece of me is like, oh my, what a gift.
Oh.
But to be honest, like, I do struggle with, figuring out Gen Z.
Yeah.
They just tell you what's going to happen.
That's it.
Where like we used to beg
for the opportunity. I know that I've been here for 3 years and I've done 2 people's jobs, but I was just wondering if it was time to. And so, believe it or not, my CFRE in my mind was my pathway out of that. Because I was like, oh, I'm about to get to the top. I can't. And for me, it worked. It wasn't even like a gimmick. Like, I've been a volunteer and a trainer, and you just get invested, to your point, in the community. But I think it is a valuable asset for people who decide to take that route. Also, in just solidifying what part of the body of knowledge you want to really be steeped in.
Yeah.
You find that for you too?
Oh, for sure. I was having a conversation the other day with, I teach a lot. I teach for Fundraising Academy quite a bit. And one of my former students reached out to me, and she had taken CFRE twice now and hadn't passed. And she was like, I've gotten scholarships these last 2 times, and I'm just going to give up because, it's what, $800+. And I can't afford it.
Yeah.
And I said to her, you've put in so much effort up until this point, and you haven't actually come out of pocket for the investment yet. I get it. Budgeting is, we're all working with what we're working with. That's right. But think about it as an investment.
That's right.
If you could take the exam, get your CFRE, and within the year have a higher paying job that's going to be, 20% greater salary, is that worth the $800+? Is that
worth it?
She's like, oh, thank you for reframing that. Yes. Okay, let me try this again. So
I love that reframing.
I feel like a little bit all over the place, but I think any kind of investment in your personal, professional growth, it's always going to be worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. You weren't all over the place. I feel like, thinking about like it's sometimes it's hard to think about like the largesse of your career. And then like, getting our certification is a moment in the largesse of your career, but it has so many threads that you can pull. So sometimes it's like, oh, which thread am I pulling? But ultimately, your desire to continue to learn so that you can be in a position to be able to teach, I think is really, really awesome. And, at the end of the day, you did it for yourself, but also for your business, so that you can set yourself up for success. And, it doesn't get any better than that.
Absolutely. And, there's certain networks that they really pay attention to you more potentially as a speaker at their conferences, if you have a CFRE.
Yep, that's absolutely true. I mean, let's call it what it is, okay? It's a little signal. It's like I mean, it does something.
Yeah. So somebody else has vetted you.
Somebody else has vetted you. And it's always better to be introduced than to introduce yourself. And so it is the same. It's like an introduction, a calling card ahead. So I know that you are going to be offering folks a free empowerment coaching session. So I put that up for folks. Make sure you take advantage of this with Hannah. It is going to be an awesome, awesome, awesome session. She's not giving you all the goods, yo. If you want all the goods, you're going to have to pay. Okay, y'all? Get on her client roster. And I want to make sure that folks know how to connect with you. Where do you hang out most? On IG or on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn.
Your LinkedIn, yeah. I'm starting to hang out. I'm on foolishness on IG and on business with a little foolishness sprinkled in on LinkedIn. So I agree with that. And I'm just so glad that you got to hang out with me today, that we got to have a conversation. I'm just so grateful to you for that. Y'all make sure you connect with Hannah. Make sure that her stuff blows up. I know how y'all are watching it late at night. People probably watch this ice cream. You know, like, ooh, this is salacious. Is it? So I want to thank you so much, Hannah, for being on with me, for sharing time and space, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you so much, Kishshana.
Awesome. All right, y'all. So this is a live one today. I'm so excited that we got to have Hannah in the studio with us. And make sure that you connect with me on social if you haven't already, at Kishshana Palmer. Hannah's been so gracious to offer an empowerment session with her. So please make sure you take advantage of that. For those of you all who are more do-it-yourselfers, if you are ready to learn with me, go to learn.kishshanaco.com. We have big things coming to Kishshana & Co. I'm so excited about that. So make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, because we are going to be dropping a new series next month. I'm really excited about that. And we'll have some new videos for you. And I'm going to preview one today. And if you're like, Kishshana, I need you to get into my organization with me, and I just need to think this thing through. I need to come up with a really good strategy for how to grow within my organization and to answer some of the big challenges. Make sure you book a VIP day with me at kishco.info/VIP strategy. We got lots of compliments in the chat. Thank y'all for hanging out with us. I'm going to leave you all with a quick video that I'm going to be sharing, which I'm excited about. Let's see if it uploads, because listen, y'all, I tried to do it before and it was like, psych, this thing is too big. And I was like, it's only a minute long. So let's see if it comes up for us today.
Hey friends, it's Kishshana, and I am back with another shot of vitamin K. So today I had the opportunity to be able to work with an amazing organization who has just brought on an executive director who's phenomenal and is going through some organizational change. We're still here at the offices where we were training today, so y'all can hear all the stuff, right? And one of the things that the sound right now is actually reminding me of is all of the chatter that we are navigating when you're coming into systems change. You're dealing with institutional knowledge, the folks who are the light bearers for what has happened in the organization. You're also dealing with the folks who are the naysayers. We've done it before, we don't want to do it again, we've heard it all before. And then you're dealing with the newbies. Folks are like, I'm brand new here, what the heck is going on? As a leader of an organization, you have a lot of competing priorities. But when you're thinking about systems change, it's really important to make sure that you keep your people first, which means you've got to really be thinking about, what do people want on the other side of this change? What needs to be true? What would they need to see, to hear, and to believe? Who are my stakeholders, and how do I keep them involved in what I've got going on? These questions are just a few of the questions that I talk with my fearless leaders about when we step forward into systems change. If you're interested in learning more about how Kishshana & Co. approaches system change and how we can come into your organization and work with you, make sure you connect with us on our website or in the comments below.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for today. It has been awesome. Hannah is amazing. I hope you all have a fabulous week. I'll be back next week for another shot of vitamin K. Thanks to the crew who hung out today on your lunch hour. when your snack time. And if you hit this on the replay, make sure you hit replay before you drop your comments so we know who's watching, and we will talk to you real soon.